In 1993, just after Michael Jordan had won his third straight NBA title, his father, James Jordan, was found murdered. This is the tragic story of James Jordan's senseless death. James Raymond Jordan Sr. was born on July 31, 1936 in Wallace, North Carolina. He met his wife, Dolores Peoples, at a basketball game in 1954. When the two met, they fell head over heels in love. Ray, as Dolores referred to him, said he planned to marry her one day, and despite the objections of her father, the two began to date. After graduating, James entered the U.S. Air Force and was sent to San Antonio, while Dolores went to trade school in Alabama, but the pair missed each other too much to be separated. 2 years after meeting, they were married. James transferred to Virginia, and Dolores left school and moved in with her parents-in-law. Over the next few years, the pair would have 3 children as James left the Air Force to work at a local textile mill in North Carolina. Dreaming of a better life, the family moved to New York, where James attended trade school under the GI Bill and learned how to work with hydraulic equipment. During this time, Michael was born, the fourth of James and Dolores' 5 children. Soon, the family resettled in Wilmington, North Carolina. While Michael Jordan was only one of 5 children in the family, he and James Sr. were joined at the hip throughout his childhood, with Michael mirroring his father in everyday life. Michael's famous trademark of sticking his tongue out on the basketball court came from his father, who would do the same action when concentrating intensely on a project. Surprisingly, when it comes to athletics, James didn't start his son on the hardwood, but rather on the baseball diamond, introducing him to the sport when he was 6 years old. Though Michael, of course, went on to become a basketball phenom, James still harbored a desire for his son to play baseball. Don't take this to suggest that James didn't appreciate his son's basketball skills. On the contrary, he was a close-knit member of Michael's basketball entourage and became a common face on TV as he watched his son light up the court. In a 1991 sideline interview, James spoke about being Michael's #1 fan.
I always thought Michael would play baseball. Of course, he had that year that he grew so much, and it's just been a joy watching him develop into the player that the world can see today.
Michael Jordan said that after the 1993 season, when he had just won his third straight NBA title with the Chicago Bulls, his father suggested he leave basketball behind and try his hand at professional baseball. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to anyone, James would not live to see his son play another game in any sport. For Michael and James Jordan, the month of June 1993 was a time of celebration. Michael had just gotten his third straight NBA title, the first three-peat in the sport's history since the Boston Celtics won 8 straight titles from 1959 to 66. During this time, like throughout his career, James Sr. was standing right by his son's side, regarded as not just a father to Michael, but a close friend. Author Sam Smith said of the father-son pair, "I have no doubt he was closer to James than anyone else in his life." 1 month after the Chicago Bulls defeated the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals, James set off in a red Lexus SC400, gifted to him by his son, to attend a friend's funeral in Wilmington, North Carolina. The plan was for James to attend the funeral in Wilmington, drive to Charlotte, and then hop on a plane to Chicago. The funeral was the last time James was seen alive. On July 23, 1993, about a week before his 57th birthday, James Jordan was sleeping in his car on the side of the road in Lumberton, North Carolina. He had grown tired during his drive to Charlotte and had decided to park his car at the intersection of US 74 and Interstate 95 to rest. His sports car attracted the attention of 2 local men, Daniel Green and Larry Demery, who decided to take the car and all its contents in an armed robbery. During the robbery, one of the 2 men fired a single fatal gunshot into James's chest. Afterward, authorities said the 2 rummaged through the car for any valuables, finding among other objects 2 championship rings that Michael had given to his father. The 2 had discovered they'd killed the father of the most popular athlete in the world, and there was no going back. The men took the car and dumped James Jordan's body in a swamp in South Carolina. Despite James's absence causing serious concern, the Jordan family took 3 weeks to report his disappearance. The family had been contacting people privately, hoping that they had seen him, but nobody had. 18 days after his murder, James's vehicle was found in Fayetteville, North Carolina, but James himself was not. The body of James Jordan Sr. was not discovered until August 3rd, 11 days after his murder, when a local fisherman came across the remains in McCall, South Carolina, more than 40 miles from where he had been killed. Exposure to the elements had left the body unrecognizable, and James was cremated as a John Doe. It was only through dental records that officials were able to identify the body. 3 weeks after his disappearance, the Jordan family had finally learned the truth. Now they and the rest of the nation were left to wonder who did it and why. Larry Demery and Daniel Green were lifelong friends in Lumberton, North Carolina, whose lives took a sinister turn. As former Robeson County District Attorney Johnson Britt detailed to the Chicago Tribune in 2018, "I was dealing with 2 kids who were on a crime spree, and that culminated with the death of Mr. Jordan. and each crime they committed together became increasingly more violent. That violence culminated in the fatal robbery of James Jordan. Before dumping the car they stole, the two young men made 36 phone calls with James's car phone over a 4-day period. It was these calls that would be their undoing, with police using the call records to track them down. The trial of Larry Demery and Daniel Green played out in the national spotlight. The evidence against them was strong. Both had made phone calls from James's stolen Lexus, and Green had also made home videos rapping while wearing James's stolen jewelry. Given all the evidence against them in this crime, as well as for multiple other armed robberies, Larry Demery agreed to plead guilty and testify against Green at the trial. According to his testimony, Demery said the two had planned to simply rob unsuspecting tourists at a nearby Quality Inn when they spotted Jordan's Lexus. Demery claims that Green desired the car and their plan was to tie up the owner by the side of the road. However, when James awoke, he claimed Green shot him without hesitation. Green and his lawyers disputed Demery's story and his credibility, but it didn't end up mattering. Both Green and Demery were convicted of first-degree murder and given life sentences, each maintaining that the other was the triggerman. James Jordan Sr. stayed close to his son from childhood to NBA stardom. In 1991, after Jordan won his first NBA title, James could be seen consoling an emotional Michael as he cried holding the Larry O'Brien trophy. 2 years and 2 more titles later, after the death of his father, Michael decided enough was enough. On October 6, 1993, Jordan announced his retirement from the NBA at the age of 30, telling the press that he had lost his passion for the sport.
When I lose the sense of motivation and the sense of to prove something as a basketball player, it's time for me to move away from the game of basketball.
One of the first questions asked, of course, was how much his father's murder had to do with his decision. Journalist and author Bob Greene, who wrote 2 biographies about Jordan, thinks his father's death was critical in prompting the change in careers.
Michael Jordan would have never tried to play baseball had his father not been murdered.
Despite his son reaching the top of the basketball world early in his NBA career, making the All-Star game in his rookie season and setting records by just his second, James still challenged Michael to pick baseball back up.
His father even recommended to him after we won the first championship that he go play baseball at that time.
Shortly after his NBA retirement, to everyone's surprise, Michael would sign with the Birmingham Barons, the minor league affiliate of the Chicago White Sox. In his one season with the Barons, Jordan drew a lot of attention, but wasn't very experienced on the field. Every mistake he made attracted attention. He was criticized and accused of being delusional.
Calls it his dream that he wants to be a Major League Baseball player. I call it a delusion.
Despite the onslaught of negative press attention, he did show improvement throughout the season. But then the 1994 players' strike happened, shutting down baseball for 232 days. Not wanting to cross the picket line, Jordan retired from baseball. But as the world would soon find out, he was far from retired from sports.
So if I desire to come back and play again, maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe that's the challenge that I may need someday down the road.
At his press conference announcing his retirement, Jordan said, "The most positive thing I can take from my father not being here with me today is that he saw my last basketball game, and that means a lot." But ultimately, Jordan would honor his father not by staying away from basketball, but returning. A year and a half after his initial retirement, Michael returned to the NBA. After falling to the Orlando Magic in the 1995 playoffs, Jordan and the Bulls would complete their second three-peat of the decade, winning 3 straight titles between 1996 and 1998. In true Hollywood fashion, the team clinched their 4th title of the decade on Father's Day. The moment overwhelmed Jordan, who was left sobbing in the Chicago locker room.
I can't even put it in words. On Father's Day, what it means to me. I know he's watching.
Both Larry Demery and Daniel Green were convicted of the murder of James Jordan Sr. Demery's guilty plea and testimony allowed him to be the first of the two to have a chance of parole. In August 2013, 2 decades after the murder, Demery had his first shot at parole. He was denied then and again in 2016. In his 3rd attempt, Demery was granted parole and is set to be released on August 6, 2023. As for Daniel Green, he has maintained that while he robbed and hid Jordan's body, he was not the murderer. Green attempted to get a new trial, but was rejected by an appeals court in 2019. Now 43, he remains in Lumberton Correctional Institution. In an interview on the Oprah Winfrey Show 3 months after the murder, Jordan said that he neither wanted to meet his father's killers nor ask them why they did it, because any reason they could give him would still be totally meaningless.
It's better that I don't know.